Swiss Alps? You feel like you're in a living postcard. Agreed. You turn a corner and suddenly you see such an ideal landscape that it doesn't seem real. Pantheon in Rome. It is the oldest building in the world that is still in use. It is simply incredible to realize that Marcus Aurelius himself passed through the same portico through which we enter. For comparison, when the construction of St. Peter's Basilica began in the Vatican, the Pantheon had already stood for 1,500 years. The Pantheon is my favorite place in Rome. The Colosseum seemed less impressive against this background, although, of course, St. Peter's Cathedral is also incredible. I sat by the Pantheon every day, drinking something and just looking at it. It seemed almost alien. Pompeii. I had very high expectations, and still, this place exceeded them. It's just huge. You can spend several days there. If you are even a little interested in history, you will definitely like it. Some details have been incredibly well preserved. For example, in one of the baths, you can still see the drawings that ancient people left on the walls. There are stunningly preserved mosaics everywhere, including the famous one with the image of a dog, which I especially liked. There is even a scene where political agitation has been preserved. And in one room under the main layer, there are remnants of Semitic culture, around 500 BC. They lived here even before the Romans came. And these elements are also perfectly preserved. When you are there, you really begin to understand what it was like to live in an ancient Roman city. Probably the most impressive place I have ever seen. If you have little time, go to Herculaneum. It's also gorgeous. It's all about the same there, but the area is smaller, and it is still being excavated. It seems that only 70% of the territory is open. When I was there, archaeologists were just working on the spot. Mont Saint-Michel, France. This is just an amazing place. I was there in 1994 when I was 8. I thought all medieval castles would be like that. After him, all the others were disappointing. Machu Picchu. Stunning views in any direction you look. We were unable to get to the Inca Trail itself, but stopped in the nearest city, woke up very early, and watched the sunrise over Machu Picchu. I will never forget this day. Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, Udvar-Hazy Center in Chantilly, Virginia, near Dulles Airport. This place is simply amazing, even if you are not particularly interested in the topic. Be sure to wear comfortable shoes. It's a huge area. Parking costs $15, and admission is free. I was in this city on a business trip, and I had a free day. I thought I'd stop by for a bit, then find something else to do. As a result, I spent 5 hours there and seriously thought about returning the next day. A funny story. I joined a guided tour. We were walking past the F-14, and one of the participants said, "I was hoping you would talk about the F-14. Guide. I usually skip it because people already know a lot. Guest. Yes, I understand. It's just special. I flew on this F-14. Guide. You flew on an F-14? Guest. Specifically on this one. My name is written on the fuselage. The guide began to ask him questions about the history of this particular aircraft, and the guy knew everything down to the smallest detail. Redwood in California. It feels like you've stepped into prehistoric times. Several times it seemed that a dinosaur would come out from behind the tree. Complete magic and delight. Most of the mileage on my car is trips to and from the redwoods. These trees are truly magical. It may sound strange, but after spending time among the sequoias, I began to perceive vegetation as a full-fledged form of life, the same as animals. These trees talk, they hum, they vibrate. Just a wonderful experience. Bruges, an incredible city. You can walk around it for hours and not see the same building twice. Each house has its own architecture, its own decorations and details. In most cities, everything merges, but not in Bruges. There is delicious food, kind people, and a great climate. And I really liked Edinburgh. It has its own character, interesting history, and at the same time, it does not feel like too much of a tourist place. This is a great city for a relaxing holiday. Alhambra in Granada, Spain. Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Colosseum in Rome, and also a boat trip along Chicago. Sagrada Familia is something incredible, and it is becoming more and more impressive. I was there in 2008, then again in 2016, and was simply amazed at how much they had managed to finish in those 8 years. Angkor Wat, an amazing place, like all of Cambodia. I could just admire the temple for a week. The entire temple complex is incredible. Not only the main temple, but everything around it. It is so huge that sometimes you can wander around small temples and not meet a soul. The Metropolitan Museum and the Museum of Modern Art in New York. When you grow up in a small town and see these works of art only in school textbooks, and then you come across them live, it's just wow. You walk through the hall and suddenly, bam, here it is, the one and only. And here's another one, and another. Everything that used to be only on the pages of books is now right in front of you within arm's reach. Only you can't touch it. I know it sounds kind of bad at first, but in today's world, it's more important than ever. Auschwitz-Birkenau. We've all heard the stories, read the books, watched the movies. However, the generation of World War II is gone, and their stories are now just memory, legend, and history. You need to get there yourself, because this experience is difficult to convey. It devastates you emotionally, scares you, shocks you. After all, it all really happened. The horror and cold-bloodedness with which the plan to destroy an entire nation was conceived. Just boundless darkness. This should not happen again. After you visit this place, you will become a different person. We are stronger when we are together. Love each other. Almost everything that Atlas Obscura recommends is worth seeing if you are interested in the description. Unlike ordinary guidebooks, their recommendations really turn out to be as interesting as on paper. If you are bored with the standard panoramas of cities and want something strange, you should go there. Changed. What did I especially remember? KFC building with chicken animation. Spam Museum. They especially care about visitors with neurodiversity. And of course, Road 66. This route is not legendary for nothing. David Michelangelo in Florence. This is something incredible. I couldn't take my eyes off of it for an hour. Completely agree. I have seen this statue 1,000 times in pictures and on television. But seeing it live, I experienced pure physical bliss. It was delight. Colosseum in Rome. You go in and immediately feel the burden of centuries. It's huge, unreal, and still standing after almost 2,000 years. In this case, the crowds of tourists are quite justified. Pompeii. It's just awesome. I spent a whole day there and still wanted to stay longer. It's been many years since I was there. Archaeologists are still excavating. I imagine it has become even more interesting there. Completely agree. Pompeii just blew my mind. I love ancient history, and this place was on my wish list. 6 hours of continuous clicks. Oh God, oh God. I was burned out like a lemon. Herculaneum is also magnificent. Special mention of Karnak, Abu Simbel, the pyramids. And also Knossos and the Roman Forum. An architectural boat tour of Chicago is a wonderful experience. It's very interesting, and such a tour gives a great overview of the city. Changed. It is better to take a tour organized by the Chicago Architecture Museum. An ideal day in Chicago for a tourist? Go up to the observation deck in the Hancock Tower, see the city from a height. Go down and go on an architectural boat tour. Feel the city from the inside. Finish the day with a walk to Navy Pier. Enjoy the panorama. Bonus if you can take a ride on Lake Michigan. Hawaii in general. I thought it was a wildly overrated place, but it turned out to be the opposite. It's much better than I imagined. It's just incredibly beautiful there, especially if you stay away from all the tourist bustle. Waterfalls, rocks, there are just a lot of breathtaking landscapes. We had a friend in Hawaii, on the Big Island. He took us to the two most beautiful beaches I've ever seen. One of them was all green with huge cliffs. We saw whales and sea turtles. It's just crazy. And when you fly to Kauai and get to Hanalei Bay, whew, Venice, not an overrated place at all. It really is one of the wonders of the world. If humanity disappears and aliens study the ruins of our civilization, Venice will be proof that we existed for a reason. Anyone going to Venice, I highly recommend just wandering around the city. Get off the tourist trails, visit the small islands. My best memories of Venice are tiny, lost, beautiful